West Tigers podcast, episode number 349, a milestone edition, not too far away. That'll be the hopefully the post-victory edition of the West Tigers podcast after we beat the Cowboys at Leichhardt, which will be, if you're listening to this on Thursday tonight, but recording on Wednesday night. Now, Nick's here. Nick had a chance to give his one word for that game last week against the Warriors, but Gary hasn't had a chance to put up his one word, and I haven't had a chance to put up my one word. So, Gary, what have you got? What's your one word to describe that game over in Kiwi land?
Yeah, amnesia. I spent all weekend trying to forget that game ever happened, and then I listened to the boys on the pod on Monday night, and it just brought back the disappointment of what was really another ordinary performance and another disappointing game, and probably a game where we played a team that wasn't playing at their best. That was an opportunity that if we played good football for a victory, and we just bottle it time and again.
My word, and I got to admit, I didn't actually watch the game. I haven't seen a second of the game, which is fantastic. But I know what the result was. So my word was early. In other words, we got our disappointment out of the way nice and early last week. But I've got to say, I feel vindicated. And Nick, you were part of this. Vindicated because on the podcast that you and Steve recorded on Monday night, there was plenty of people saying Joel's right. Physicality is the word. I think you even used my word, physicality. It's blatantly obvious now to everybody, isn't it? That if we can't match these other teams in this physical NRL environment that we're in today, really you've got little chance of winning. No matter how much icing you've got on the cake, you need that muscle up front. You need that muscle in the backs to be able to compete.
Yeah, spot on. We got beaten up, and it was across the field, like I said the other night. It wasn't just out wide with our wingers trying to run the ball back off kicks. It was everywhere, and that's something we've been good at the last couple of years, is rolling up the field. I remember last year we just struggled to ice opportunities at the end of sets when we were up in the attacking zone, but we couldn't even get up there for long periods of the game last week, which is disappointing.
Even last year though, Nick, when we were rolling up the field, we were lacking that punch, and it's really that big aggressive middle forward that on the pod we've been speaking about now for a number of years. And even last year, I think that was part of the reason why we struggled in attack, is we don't have that guy that causes damage to the defensive line. And I think every game we play, especially when we play teams that have that type of forward, it just becomes more and more obvious of exactly what we're lacking, that big, aggressive, type A predator, as Steve likes to call them, in the middle of the field, and we just don't have it. And even last year, when I do agree our forward pack was going really well, all we had were forwards that were pushing out good numbers and good meters. We didn't have our forward pack was just unbalanced, and we still haven't done anything to rectify that. And hopefully one of these three signings we have coming up is going to be one of those big damaging front rowers.
We're going to talk about signings and players coming and going and rumours and speculation and all that stuff in a few moments' time. Being the midweek pod, I'm going to be doing buy, sell and hold, so I'll be channeling my inner Eddie for buy, sell and hold shortly.
Never channel your inner Eddie.
No, it's probably not a good idea, no. And also we'll be playing Yodi's quiz as well. A little bit of early warning. I haven't actually read the questions yet. I just printed them out before we came on, so I guess I'm channeling my inner Eddie there as well.
But yeah, mate, that's a rookie mistake.
It really is. Now, speaking of that Monday night edition, I've got to clarify something. All right, we've got to dig a little bit deeper here. Now, Steve's going to be a little bit absent from the podcast for a little while. Okay, nothing to worry about. It's all good. He's got a couple of things on his plate that he's dealing with, and he hasn't been surgically or strategically removed from the podcast or anything like that.
Replaced by Nick.
Yeah, exactly. But what I have to question, and I'm surprised that nobody pulled him up on this, is on that podcast, he was talking about post-game celebrations. Nick, do you remember that moment in that podcast?
I do. Yeah, it was. I liked it.
He said, in my day, you scored a try, you patted the guy on the bum, and you gave him a wink. And I'm just wondering where Steve was playing rugby league. That made me laugh. I don't think Steve exactly meant exactly how that came out, but maybe that's sort of more of a an upper class thing that I wouldn't understand. Maybe they do that in rugby schools on the northern beaches or something like that, Gary.
I just don't think Steve likes giving money to charity. I think he just doesn't want us doing things that will benefit others.
Actually, Gary, you might have to be worried because I think I might be watching the game tomorrow night with you at Leichhardt, and I actually like to do that after we score a try. I don't mind giving my fellow fan next to me a pat on the bum and a wink either.
That's all right. Yachty sits behind me, so he'll be there for that.
All right.
Let's move on from that. There's a lot of things to talk about. In chronological order, we could do it, but let's talk about the most recent thing that has happened, and that is that we got another player making their debut this week. I had to admit I'd never heard of Tim Johansson before, but quite an interesting story. Born in Switzerland, raised in northern New South Wales, played for South Tweed Heads as a junior, went to the Knights, ended up at the Bulldogs, came across to the West Tigers via Ryde Eastwood, played in the Bulldogs Jersey Fleet team last year. A forward, had a really quite impressive game last week, scored a try. I think it was a match-winning try, but he's getting a chance, Gary. Sort of out of left field. He hadn't been in any of our discussions around being a potential debutant this year at all.
Oh, and I didn't recognise the name either when he was named. I did look into him a little bit today. Even before he played flag for the Bulldogs, he'd played as a teenager a few New South Wales Cup games. So he has had some reps around him at some point, but almost gave up the game at the start of the year and then started playing for Ryde Eastwood. And what a rise from Ryde Eastwood to making NRL debut in 1 year. And I don't know a lot about him, but he's been pushing out pretty good numbers in reserve grade, and I think he's probably earned this spot. And it's interesting to see that it appears he's jumped over Jordan Miller, because I don't think Miller's out injured or anything. So he's been selected ahead of Jordan Miller, which I found quite interesting.
He comes onto the bench for Sione Fainu, who had a good game last week. Unfortunately, not going to be able to play this week. NBWT, which is a really good account on X. They often have the scoop on a lot of stuff, but they put up some stats, Nick. And I think Tim's going to be our 12th debutant and our 36th player used this year. Those statistics are, that's an unusual year, isn't it, when you look at those numbers?
It really is. It speaks volumes about where we have been this year as a club. Even the amount of, I don't have those numbers in front of you, even the amount of players we've rotated through Cup and, even the lower grades under that, it's been astronomical numbers of players. And I think I heard that that's 36th player, which will happen tomorrow night, makes us the most amount of players for our NRL team since 2003, which is a hell of a long time.
Yeah, which was, I believe, our West Tigers team back then in 2003. And I think the number was 51 for the New South Wales Cup team and 46 for Jersey Flegg, which is incredible. Gary, there's just looking at those numbers alone, even if you had the best squad in the game, if you've got to call on that many players and there's that much churn and burn, like that's a season that is not conducive to combinations. That's a season of upheaval.
Well, it's kind of like us having to go as low as getting Nick to come onto the pod almost every week. But when you have a look at it, the stats are that usually the top sides in the competition are the sides that use the least amount of players. The year we won the comp, it was some ridiculously low number of players that we used throughout that season. And I guess it goes to show that if you're at the other end of the table, you're probably one of the sides that's using a lot of players. And not just through injury and suspension. Now, we've had a lot of suspension this year. We have had a lot of injuries, but we're also coming last. So there's chopping and changing your squad due to that as well. So it's probably, I would say this is more than what most teams that finish down the bottom of the ladder have. But if you're down the bottom of the ladder, I'm sure you're using more players than what the top four sides are.
Yeah, just looking at those stats, the two stats that really stick out to me are the 8 teenagers used and the 11 debutants. Like, that's massive, huge, which, explains why we're so inexperienced and failing to, ice moments during games.
But the real problem is you look at those debutants and you look at those teenagers, and arguably they've been our leaders. You have a look at the leaders of our club, the experienced players. I think the younger guys have done a much better job. So I'm not too concerned. We're probably putting a few of them in a little bit too early, but that's probably, hopefully, going to have some benefit at 12 months, 24 months down the track, that they've got this little bit of experience under their belt now, and they can build from that. So that's my hope anyway. But we've been hearing about these young guys we've got coming through for 4 or 5 years now. And we've seen some of them come up into grade, and some of them made a real fist of it. And I don't think any of them have come up and really been embarrassed. I know Luke Laliti had a rough game a couple of weeks ago, a rough 30 minutes against South Sydney. But outside of that, I thought he's been pretty good as well. So those young guys, I thought, have been quite impressive during the season.
In a way, almost like stamping their ownership of the team, which is an interesting dynamic, because normally it's the senior guys that own the team, and then you move into the team as a youngster. But they've kind of, you may make an argument the 05 was somewhat like that, where a lot of the guys that were the experienced guys weren't necessarily long-termers at the club. You know, the Shane Elfords, Paul Fatawira, a number of other guys hadn't been there a long time. Chris Heinington, Anthony LaFranchi, they'd only been there a season or two. So, yeah, it's an interesting dynamic. There'd be a correlation, I'm sure. It's something for Yachty to look up. The correlation between the lower you finish on the table, the more the prevalence of using more players. I reckon that's got to be the case, because somewhere in the back of my mind, I'm going to get beaten up for it, because I'm going back in the time tunnel. But 94, the Tigers got the wooden spoon and we used 30 players. And that was a big deal. That was like, that was a sign of how fractured that year was. Yeah.
You're starting to sound like Steve, Joel, going back in the 90s, mate.
Yeah, just with better attention to detail.
and I think when you have a look at the side we're fielded this year, without a doubt, Appy's been that on-field leader. But if you go away from him, Caesar has had his moments, but he's missed a lot of football through stupidity. Really, when you're looking at who's kind of next taking control of our team, it's Lockie Galvin for a large part of the season, an 18-year-old kid. And I think that shows kind of where we are as a club. We do have too many young guys in this squad. We have too many young guys playing a lot of games, but hopefully there's some benefit down the track for us from that.
I mean, and just staying on, and we'll move on in a second, but when you look back at that 05 team, it was a really good balance. It was just everything came together at the right time, you know, and guys like Ben Galea and Mark O'Neill, John Scandalis, Brett Hodgson, they played the best football of their career in that patch as well. Like, it was just everything. You really need everything to come together like that. We're kind of, the last couple of years, been the opposite. Nothing's come together at the same time or in the right way.
Well, and John Bateman couldn't wait to get to England, could
he? Yes, well, that's something that's come to light, is his social media presence. Gary, I think John Bateman is a very emotional person. I think if we could crack his head open and look at his brain, the amygdala is much bigger than the prefrontal cortex. He's a very emotional guy. I think a lot of his decisions are based around emotion rather than logic.
Yeah, especially out on the field. I think that's been one of the problems. Because of that, he's a very ill-disciplined player. He's a very niggling player. He doesn't take when things are going badly well. I think that's been quite obvious. And we've had him as our vice captain this year. And then 2 weeks ago, he was our captain. And that was the game where everything apparently after it blew up. And we put a guy like that into those leadership roles, who I think is a full-hearted and determined player. But I don't know that he has that self-control out on the field. And I think that's just showing what you were just talking about out on the field.
Nick, what's more likely, do you think, that John Bateman plays another game for the West Tigers, or Gary says we should have got Shane Flanagan as coach? What do you think is more likely to happen?
I struggle to see John Bateman come back to play for us. I really do.
And I don't see him coming back, but that's much more of a chance than me saying that we should have got Flanagan. There is no chance those words will ever come out of my mouth.
I don't think that is it under any circumstances John Bateman's coming back to the West Tigers and playing in the NRL team anyway. Let's move on from that. There's a lot to talk about. Rumours all over the place. Where there's smoke, there's fire. To'o is heading out of the Penrith Panthers to come and play with his best mate, Jerome Luai, at the West Tigers next year. Well, talking about the chances of that, is there any chance, Gary? Because it seems like it's not going away.
I think there is a genuine interest there. Nick sent me a clip from NRL 360 earlier tonight where they were discussing it. And to me, it sounds like Jerome Luai's got in his ear about coming across and playing for the Tigers. I think that's probably the catalyst for what's going on at Penrith at the moment. Now, no idea what happened with his discussions with Penrith today, his manager's discussions with Penrith today. But man, if there's any way we can make that deal happen, we've just got to make that happen. That is that could transform our club. He is not just a winger. I would never say go out and spend really big money on a winger. If you can get Brian To'o into your club, you go and spend big money to get that guy into your club, because he will take 2 or 3, probably not 3, but 1 or 2 at least hit ups every set coming out of your own end. He'll make good meters. He'll get a quick play of the ball, and your other wingers, your other backs get to play off the back of that. And that would change our club completely. It would make our forwards look a lot better. He's not a forward, but he plays like one. If there's any possibility of this happening, we're got to do whatever we can to get that deal over the line, because he changes our club completely next year if we can get him here.
Nick, it's only speculation about Luai. I mean, we don't know that. But it's funny, isn't it? Because like Benji Marshall can't call Brian To'o and say, yeah, if you want to come across, we'll give you X amount of dollars. We'd love to have you. That's the anti-tampering rules. But if you're a player, that's funny, isn't it? There's sort of that loophole there. You can get the player potentially to do your bidding and do your negotiating. You know, wink, wink. The West Tigers have got $800,000 sitting there with your name on it. You know, I'd love it if you come over and play with me at the Tigers. That's an interesting dynamic. We wouldn't like it, I should say, so we're not hypocritical. We wouldn't like it if this was happening to us. If Isaiah Papali was getting
Penrith, who cares?
Yeah, I'm just saying that we can't be too much on our high horses about this.
Yes, I can.
Yep. Anyway, what do you think? Do you think it's a possibility? I think typically when you get to know rugby league and how things work and situations happen, when it doesn't go away, there's something behind it.
Yeah, I agree. That, like you said, where there's smoke, there's fire. And the rumor mill's been pretty hot today on X and 360, like Gary was talking about with that clip, with the boys talking about it. And it wouldn't surprise me. Jerome is such a larger than life character, and he really seems like he's probably the nucleus of the team in a lot of ways. I'm not a Penrith fan, and I don't get out to their games or their training sessions and see how they run, but it just comes across to me that Jerome's going to be one of those guys that leads a lot of the training sessions and is very vocal. I've seen him on the field like that too. He's always revving the boys up, getting them around him. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's got a little quiet word into some of his mates' ears and said, come across, Appy's there. We're going to do some special things at Tigers. Let's enjoy the new ride. So fingers crossed. Love to see it.
Unfortunately, Gary, there may be, if we talk about trades, I don't know if there's much that we can offer. I mean, they could potentially Staines, potentially Naden making a homecoming back there, Jaden Sullivan. Unfortunately, we already, the Papali'i deal was already done. And Stefano, there's no value there because he's off contract. It's a bit of a pity that we haven't, I don't think, and Lachlan Galvin comes up, but I don't think there's any chance of that happening. And besides, by the look of it, they've got the Blaze Talangi from Parramatta, who is going to play 5'8", apparently replacing Jerome Luai. I don't know if they need a half or what a half, but yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to watch. The NRL on Fox 360 were saying that he's on $650 next year. Doesn't take much to do the math to say, well, we had 800 for Stefano sitting there. We've probably got at least 800 we could offer him. So, that's got to be a big factor in it as well.
Yeah, I think it definitely is. And when talking about a trade, I don't think we can afford to give up anything that Penrith would want. So we do probably have a couple of pieces there that I'd be interested in. But we're down the bottom of the table. Anything that we have that the 3-time premiers would want is something we need to keep at our club. So I don't really see how we could kind of work out a trade in that situation. Money-wise, though, they were saying that the 650 he's on next year is the highest paid winger in the game. I'm willing to go higher than that for him, because to me, he's not just a winger. He's a guy that takes your first or second hit up every set, and he is probably. We've spoken about our lack of punch coming out of our own end. I think he's the best meter eater winger that there is in the game, and it's not just that, he's a really strong finisher as well, and not very tall, but really safe and sound under a high ball. So this is that 800,000 we got sitting there that we had for Steph. I have no problem at all offering that to Toto. He can have 800,000 and come and play at our club. I'm extremely happy with that, because I think, as I said earlier, he transforms the way we play football and just makes the job of the others, our forwards and our other backs, so much easier because of his ability to damage that defensive line and get a quick play the ball.
I was about to ask you that question, Gary. Would you give Steph's 800 that he doesn't want? Yeah, to Toto. Because I wonder if you dangle that $800,000 a season carrot in front of Toto and say, hey, we'll give you 5 years. And so he's got that number sitting right there in front of his face. He's got Jerome just about to walk out the door. He's got Appy already there. He's got Taruva on his way as well, packing his bags. It's pretty inviting. Like, it wouldn't be a hard transition to come to the Tigers. I love talking about it because I want to make it happen. Let's try and make this happen.
I think our only hope is to kind of wish it into existence, because realistically, like, there's a lot of noise about it. Where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah.
I realistically don't think he's a player Penrith's going to let walk out of their club. We've seen in the past how firm they are with letting players go. I don't really see this as a player they want to let go. And he's still got a couple of years to run on his contract. I don't see this kind of happening. I'm very excited that there's a possibility of it happening. And I guess this is a time where we now have a CEO who has the runs on the board and has a really good history in the game. Hopefully this is something that a guy like Richo can kind of sort out and get done. But I wouldn't say I'm confident that we're going to see Brian Toto playing for the West Tigers next year. I'd just love it to happen.
Yeah, it'd be up there. It'd be very marketable too, him and Luai as well.
Oh, huge.
Perspective. Yeah, it'd be big for memberships and all sorts of stuff. There's also a bit of a rumor. I don't know. Take it with a grain of salt. Josh O'Carr potentially in the frame. Any interest in the Fox?
I think Nick wants him.
I love the Fox. I'd take him. No, I'd prefer Toto. But if theoretically we missed out on Toto, would you take Josh Adokar on a relatively good deal? I would.
If the deal was right, yeah.
For me, he doesn't add what we need. We've got a side that's really poor coming out of our own end. We need wingers that can actually bring the ball out. I don't think he did an all right job of that when he was down at Melbourne, I thought. His speed and powerful, he was able to. But he's starting to get on in his age, and I don't think he's as good bringing the ball out of his own end anymore. And a winger with pace would be great. But at the moment, until we kind of get those other areas kind of fixed up, I think it'd be a little bit wasted. So while I think he probably still has some value in the NRL, I don't think he would be a great buy for us, because I don't think he fits what we need. And it's what I criticised the Bulldogs about for a long time with their recruitment, which they appear to have improved a little bit, but they're buying players of name and not need. And to me, if we went out and bought Josh Adokar, we're buying a name, not really a need for our team. And I think the signings we make between now and next season really have to be spot on because of where we're positioned on the ladder and kind of the situation our club's in. And I don't think that's a spot on signing.
The good old days. Remember, we would get him to sign a letter of intent and we'll get out there,
shove it in
talk
a drawer
on the radio about it, about his, this is happening and that's happening, and we're very confident. And it all came to nothing.
Yep.
Things have changed.
Well, hopefully.
There's a new sheriff in town.
Richo's in town. I love Richo.
Oh. Yep. The other one that people are joining together is Jack Bird, potentially. But Jack Bird 5 years ago, I guess a bit like Josh Adokar, 2 or 3 years ago, yeah, but not overly enthusiastic at the moment. Speaking of Shane Richardson, the Behind the Roar pod, which is the official West Tigers pod, they had Shane Richardson on as a special guest in the light, of course, or in the wake of Stefano's decision to leave the club. I've got to say, if I give the club a bit of feedback, I think Richardson needs to be on the pod a little bit more. The reason why I say that is that he explained the home ground situation, and we've been a little bit critical here about the home ground situation because we didn't really know the background, didn't really know the facts as to why those decisions were made. But Shane Richardson explained it really well, and that helped a lot. It helped to understand the reasoning why we've gone for that strategy for 25, 26, and 27. So I think at this moment in time, where the fan base is once again a little bit active, I suppose you'd say, or anxious, just hearing from Shane Richardson and explaining where things are at really does help. So I think that was good. Do you feel the same, Gary? Did that clarify a few things in regards to what's happening at Leichhardt, Campbelltown, and why they made those agreements over the next couple of years?
Yeah, it does. I probably wasn't as disappointed in those decisions just from a purely personal perspective. I was very surprised we were playing so many games at Leichhardt and Campbelltown, but I really love Leichhardt. So while being surprised by it, I wasn't disappointed by it just from a purely selfish point of view. So it was good to hear him explain the reasoning. And I guess I'm one of the diehards that he was talking about looking after by playing games still at Leichhardt. So I kind of already got that side of it. I found it an interesting interview with him. He was very bullish, and he always is. Very clear about his intentions, and a few interesting points raised. The 3 players being signed basically between now and the start of next year to complete our squad, and having $2 million to do that. I found that really interesting. I would probably like to see a little bit more turnover in our forwards than just 3 players. But if we're going out and spending $2 million on 3 players, they're going to be high quality players. You don't spend an average of, what is it, 750,000, or just under that, on 3 players to kind of come away with a poor looking players out of that. So I'm hopeful we're going to get some 3 really good players into our club. So I'm really hopeful about that. But yeah, incredibly bullish in that interview.
Nick, one thing that he really stressed the point is we want players that come with the right attitude. I think, sometimes with some of the guys we've bought in the past, I think they haven't quite understood the club. That seems to be the feeling to me. But I don't know. It's like they've been in a vacuum and how they don't know what the club is, or maybe they don't know what the full extent of the club, where the club's been at in the past. But they've come with good intentions, but once they've actually opened the door and looked behind the curtain a little bit, it's been a little bit more of a challenge than what they presume. So I think if you look at Benji and Luai are talking all of the time, apparently, after each game, like, it feels to me that signing is different in that he's got a pretty good idea, I think, of what he's coming into. But with Richardson there, and by the sound of it, Benji with his man management skills and things like that, hopefully that's a thing of the past is the point I'm trying to get to. Hopefully we've turned that corner, and the guys that come in because they've got the right attitude can be in an environment where they can flourish, rather than, as Steve was, really driving that point, we get the worst out of them, we don't get the best out.
Yeah, I think it definitely is the turning point. I think we're still getting through the hangover of the previous management, and in terms of our current roster and trying to move certain players on, and trying to put some support around Benji, who I really want to see succeed next year. But I love Richo. He is very assertive, and he's very bullish, like you say, Gary. But he really did help to clear up a lot of things on that broadcast or that pod yesterday. I don't know whether I'm sure he says everything with a great deal of intent and reason, but just a couple of things that he let slip out, like that comment about how Jerome calls Benji after games and talks about wanting to, can't wait to be there. Like, what would Ivan think? And his Penrith teammates. Oh, yeah, I know. But it just seems very strange that would happen. And then our CEO would come out and publicly state that. One of the other things that was very interesting too about Bateman was, and when Joel, you were talking about how he was talking to the senior players and giving them a rev up, and then there was that story about how he'd had a go at Bateman. I think Chris Warren also jumped in and said, well, I was there, and he didn't just have a go at John, he had a go at all of the senior players. But when Richo then explained, Bateman left for an opportunity and we were all fully supportive of that, he then went on and said, Bateman needs to have a think about what he's doing and decide when he comes back if he wants to commit. And I thought that's a very strange comment to publicly state. Like, he's obviously making a real statement there that he's maybe not all the way in and something has happened between he and Benji.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Gary, I'll just chime in there and say, the thing is that Shane Richardson, this is his last hurrah. Like, you don't want to be mucking around with him because he's got nothing to lose, has he? Like, he's got the premierships, he's got the legacy. He's going to go all guns blazing here and make this work. There's not going to be any preservation. He doesn't need to preserve himself. He's just going to go all out. And I think that's what we're seeing. And those sorts of comments just tell me that. You don't care if he upsets John Bateman. He's putting the ball over in his court. Karen?
And the reason is I don't think he cares if he comes back. If he gets upset and doesn't come back, then that's probably a win for the club.
Yeah.
So it makes that sort of comment easier. When talking about player commitment and player attitude, I think it's very easy to talk, and we've got a few players who can talk the talk. A few players who profess to be leaders of our club, and really their actions show otherwise. I think there's a number of players in our club with that sort of attitude. It's much harder to walk the walk. It's much harder when things are tough to get out there and do what Appy does. Do that support play that Appy did at the end of the game on Friday night and come around and score that try after throwing the ball from dummy half and then wrapping around and backing up Latu and scoring a try when you're getting flogged. That attitude is really hard to do week in, week out. So it's easy to talk. It's really hard to walk the walk. And I think we had a management before that fell for the talk. So they'd talk to these players. They'd go out and look to bring these players into the club, and they'd say all the right things. So your John Bateman would say all the right things about how committed he was and how much effort he was going to put in. And Clemmer did the same. I won't say too much about Dewey, but he has that attitude throughout what he does. Is he will talk that big game and about being the leader and upholding these great standards at the club, and then we'll let through a line break and won't turn around and chase. That sort of attitude permeates through our club. And I really do believe that our past leaders couldn't tell the difference between guys that could talk it and guys that could do it. And it's really hard to do that. I have confidence in Richo to be able to go and meet players and work out which guys are talking and which guys can actually do it. And not just do it, but not be a follower. Come to a club and instill it into that club. Because you have different types of people in your club. You have those leaders that no matter where they go, they're going to drive those standards and they're going to push others to reach those standards. You have guys in your club who, when they're in a good club and in a good environment, can kind of drive those standards, but once they're by themselves, they can't do it themselves. And then you have guys who follow that and will will do whatever's happening at the club, whatever stands at the club, they'll fall into that. And if you've got guys doing extra training, they'll fall into that and they'll do that. But then you have guys that won't do that at all. At the moment, I don't think we have enough of those guys, those true leaders who will drive it for other players. And what you got to do, and I think by getting guys from Penrith, if you can get Toto across to join with Luai and Appy, you start to get a critical mass of players who can then drive those sort of standards. And I think that's what we're lacking. And I think Richo's the guy to kind of identify those players.
It's funny, nobody else has drawn the connection, but it's funny because when we were negotiating with John Bateman, we still had Jackson Hastings under contract. And remember that Jackson Hastings had a blow up about Bateman coming because he didn't like him, didn't want to work with him. They're the same. They're the same coin. There's different sides of the same coin. They're exactly the same types. Jackson Hastings talked a big game about how he was going to give Luke Brooks a hug and help him take his game to the next level, and he was going to do this and going to do that, and then it all got too hard and he left. So very similar.
Which same is probably why they didn't get on.
What about the crocodile roll to the death? I've got to talk to Richo about metaphors. I don't know if that was exactly the right metaphor to use.
You're starting to sound like Benny Elias.
Yeah.
Look, I actually think the intention of what he was trying to say was spot on. His wording of it was terrible.
Yeah.
We're a side that's down the bottom of the ladder. So as I was saying, you want those guys with attitude. You want those guys that are going to fight tooth and nail, fight to the death to get out of where we are. So he was talking about the death roll a crocodile does. A crocodile roll just didn't. If you had a word in it, it's a great analogy. But not only did he say it 4 or 5 times in that interview, I was watching Channel 9. He said it in an interview with Channel 9 as well. So it's something. It's a message he wants to get out. I just think he needed to word it a little bit better.
I initially thought he was talking about what he'd had for lunch. Bit of tartare sauce.
That's what you have in Darwin. Yeah, crocodile roll. Just using that term death, like I don't know if that's exactly the right. When it sounded a little bit like the club was going to die in a year or two if we don't turn this around. So it was a little bit more dire than maybe what it needed to be. I guess the point too being that most people don't survive the crocodile roll. If your crocodile's got you and taking you underwater and is rolling you around, you're probably not going to survive.
But if you do, you're a fighter, Joel.
Yeah. No matter how well intentioned you are, you're probably not going to. Well, another bit of feedback that I'd give is I really liked the story that he told about when he got to Penrith. They won the Spoon, they lost 4 games straight, and they went back to the post game function, and there was only 12 supporters there, and he met them all face to face and remembered their names. And then when they got successful, he made sure that they got that recognition that they were there during those tough times. I think that's a story he should have told earlier in his tenure here at the West Tigers, because that's basically our fan base. And just to have that validation that he understands where we're at and he's been here before would have been good, which is the other side of the coin of what Steve has criticised him. And I've had a few things to say about I think you too, Gary, about being too bullish with the fan base, of saying, I'm only going to talk to you if you're a member. You kind of need that softer side with that as well, to give that validation to show that you understand where we're at. But I want to move forward only with people who really, really make that commitment.
The big thing is with this club is it's a very scarred fan base. This is 13 years where we haven't played semi-final football. It's our 25th year this year. We've made the semi-finals 3 times in over that 25 years. So this is a fan base that is very scarred, is very hurt by the club at times, and there is a lot of anger out there towards the club, and justifiably so. And I think, and our club's never done it well. Our club needs to understand where the fan base is, that feeling, and why it's there, and not try to minimize that feeling. I think if you acknowledge it and realize it's there and pay homage to it, I guess homage isn't the right word, but pay respect to your fans that are feeling that way, you then have to sell a journey and a vision. And this club's been really bad at that. And I don't think it's improved greatly. That's why that story would have been very beneficial, maybe even in his first kind of press conference at the club, is like, I understand where you guys are. I understand why you're upset. I understand why you're disappointed in the club. We're going to fix this. We're going to turn it around. And being very explicit in that message you're selling to the club, to the fan base. I don't think we've got that right yet. And I think it's something important that we do get right. And even coming out and saying, instead of saying, I'm not going to speak to you if you're not a member, say, I understand why you've given up your membership or why you're not a member of our club. But our goal is to fix this, and we need your support. We need your help to do that. And I think that sells a much better message to the fan base around that membership area. I know Souths hadn't had a lot of success when he went there, but this is a fan base you do at times have to treat with a little bit of kid gloves and bring along for the ride. And we're still not doing that well enough, in my opinion.
Yeah, and the scars run a lot deeper than just 13 years, Gary. So I'm sure anyone that's old enough, like we are, that followed the two clubs, the foundation clubs before the merger, like the scars run deep into the very early 90s, as you would say, in Joel. 94, I was a Balmain fan too, so that was a spoon year, and that was hard, but there was not much success for either club during the 90s.
Come on, mate. You've seen 3 final series since then. You should be over
it. Yeah, what a smorgasbord that was.
So 30 years, the last 30 years, you've seen 3 final series, and you got to go right back to 89, 90. So
yeah, well, 88, 89. I think Balmain made the finals in 1990. I can't remember about the Magpies, but
they lost to Manly. They finished.
Magpies made it around 97.
97, they made it. Yeah,
and
something long. That should be taken into account just on that point, Nick, is that the fans of the Magpies and the fans of Balmain also went through a merger, which was very hard. There was a lot of heartache in that, but also years of speculation about what the future looked like. So, it's a fan base that's been through a very unusual, very particular sort of experience. And it's just so scary to hear that, 3 seasons out of 25. It's just terrible.
It is, but you know what? I still am very happy that we merged with Western Suburbs. When I say we, Balmain, I'm glad Balmain merged with Wests. If we had merged with Parramatta, I'm not sure we would have survived. I think that may have gone down that Northern Eagles, Manly sort of route. So, through good times and bad, there's been a lot of bad. Let's hope that we've got a lot of good coming up. New era next year. Let's go.
It's better to have it in. See, we're better off than Penrith fans because they've got it behind us and we've still got it in front of us.
Exactly. Right.
We've still got our 3 premierships in a row to come.
That's it. Yeah.
So straight after the 3 spoons.
I'm not an optimist. Okay, buy, sell, or hold. Richo and Benji weren't heartbroken when Stefano announced that he was leaving. Buy, sell, or hold. Nick, what do you think?
Yeah, I'll buy that.
Yeah?
Yeah, I don't think that. Yeah, I silver linings. And I think Richo kind of alluded to that in the BTR as well. He kind of said, we wanted to keep him, but he made his decision. He said, I'm going to go. No, I'm going to stay. I'm going to go. And he went back and forth a few times. And then he made one line comment. He said, we kind of offered him, too much anyway. It was very quick, but he said that line and then he moved on. So I think they're happy that they've got that money to spend elsewhere on a better investment.
And it's interesting to say, I think most of the fan base is buying that as well. So I don't think it's just Benji and Richo are probably pretty happy about that. I think if you had to ask most people at the start of the season that question, most people wanted him to stay. Most people thought he was a key signing. But what's happened over the past 2 months, I think most people are happy with the decision that he's made.
So you're buying it?
I'm buying that.
Next one. Benji was wrong to pick him in first grade this week.
Yeah, I'll buy it. I don't see the benefit. I don't think we're going to win many games between now and the end of the season, and I don't see what he adds if he's not going to be here next year.
I don't think Nick's is adamant.
I'll sell that. I think Benji's picked him, maybe for a couple of reasons. One, to give him, one last crack at having a real dig. And perhaps another one to see what it's going to be like when he's on the other side of the fence, because I have a feeling he's going to cop it when he runs out of Leichhardt tomorrow. I'm not sure I'm going to boo him, but I just have a feeling he's not going to be very well received tomorrow.
Where else are we going to find those 70 metres a game?
Oh, Gary. Gary.
Hush.
All right, one more. Buy, sell, or hold. West Tigers will finish in the top 4 this decade. We've still got, what, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29?
I'll buy it. Jerome Luai said he's going to win 4 or 5 premierships, didn't he?
Yep, he did. I'll buy that
So,
too.
Look, I think if we get things right over, well, I think the next 3 months are really critical, like really critical for our club. The 3, I'd like 5 new signings that come in between now and the start of next season.
I'd like 15.
Yeah, the 24 new signings we have coming in before the start of next season, I think, are really important. But I also think this off-season signing for 2026 is really crucial as well, that we get that right. If we get those 2 things right, then of course there should be no reason why we can't move up the ladder and before the end of the decade make the top 4. Hopefully win a premiership. But so and I'm a positive person, so I'm definitely we can make it. Yeah, I'm buying that for sure.
Yeah, Nick's buying it.
I'm buying it. You are a positive person, Gary. Why I like you in my life, mate. You level me out.
He's
You
the
and Eddie
yin to
both.
Eddie's yang. All right, let's have a look at Yachty's quiz. Here we go. Buzz in with your name. Against which NRL opponent did we score our highest golden point win against? So, for example, a golden point game that was decided by something other than a field
Oh, so it's not the highest score; it's the
goal.
biggest margin.
Yes.
Okay. Gary, South Sydney.
Nick, throw me another team.
Titans.
Titans. No, it was the Sharks. According to Yachty, we beat them by a penalty goal in 2007. Every other golden point win that we've had was by a field goal.
Oh.
True or false? So you got a 50-50. The Cowboys 2005 grand final lineup read from 1 to 17. So in other words, was there a pre-game shuffle for the Cowboys?
Nick. False.
False. No, it is actually, yeah, false. Brett Furman moved to the bench. Justin Smith went to 5'8", and Jonathan Thurston moved to halfback.
There you go.
There you go.
Question number 3. What was the total attendance at that grand final? 82,400 and nearest to the pin.
Nick. 48.
82,448.
I'll go 49.
Yeah, Gary picks up the point there. 82,453. Unfortunately, I wasn't one of them.
That's
I was,
disappointing.
and that's the only one I cared about.
Yeah.
Where were you,
Name
Joel?
the 5 West Tigers players throughout the history of the club whose surname has begun with the letter J. There's only
Surname.
5 of them. None of them are still with the club.
I don't like this one.
Andrew Johns.
I'll give you a couple of clues. Well, this one player, he was a winger, and he's got a couple of brothers that have also played first grade at other clubs. His last name starts with J. No.
Jennings.
Robert Jennings
yeah.
was one. A winger that came from the Gold Coast. Played a couple of seasons. I think only one season.
Yeah, I don't have that one.
No. 2005, mop-headed sort of back rower. Played in a couple of games. Had a really good game against his former club at Campbelltown in a big Friday night game in 2005.
No, don't have that one either.
No, you don't have that one. Front rower who played for the West Tigers in 2003. 2023. So last season.
There's a big difference there, Joel.
Yeah. 2023. What year is it now? 2023. Left at the end of last year. Went and played He was going to play for a team on the northern side of Sydney. There's not many of them.
Can I buy a vowel?
But I think he's playing for Blacktown nowadays. Front rower.
Man, I have been crook this week, but my brain's not working.
These are too hard.
All right, here we go. Atasi James.
Oh, yeah. I didn't mind him.
Ben Jeffrey.
I should have got Ben Jeffrey. I should have got Ben Jeffrey.
Matt Jobson.
Bad. Yeah, I understand not getting that one.
And Ben Jeffries.
I should have got both of those.
Yeah.
Don't like those, Yachty.
The same guy, but they weren't.
Bad questions.
Seriously, mate, you don't want to go there. Yachty might listen to this before the game tomorrow night, and you'll be seeing him tomorrow night.
Exactly. I love you, Yachty. Keep up the good work.
All right, last one. Who am I? Born on Christmas Eve in 2004 in Rotorua in New Zealand. So a Kiwi, born in 2004.
2004.
So what's that make him?
20.
20. I hope this is right. I mean, Yachty, anyway. I made 5 appearances. I could have sworn this guy was a little bit older than this. But anyway, I made 5 appearances for the West Tigers. All of those 5 appearances were off the bench. Now, obviously, if the guy is still only pretty young, it wasn't that long ago that he played those 5 games for the West Tigers, all off the bench. I'm the only West Tigers player to have signed from North Queensland. So we've only ever bought one player down from the Cowboys.
20 years old.
I did not play any games for the Cowboys. So he never played for the Cowboys, but he was part of their Toyota Cup or lower grade team. And he came down to the West Tigers, played 5 games off the bench. Known for his offload. He's a good offloader. Defensively, maybe not so good.
It's all yours, Gary. I'm blank, mate.
He was part of a swap deal with Kane Bradley. Kane Bradley went the other way.
Oh.
He's currently on trial with the Dolphins through the Norths Devils. He was a guy that we had pretty big...
Yeah. Simpkins.
Yes, Tukey Simpkins.
Yeah.
Gary Edelman.
He came with big raps, didn't he? He came with big raps.
Massive raps.
Yeah. And then left.
Yeah. Another success story, courtesy of your favourite club, the West Tigers.
That'll be another one that Steve will talk about next time he's on, about another player that's left the Tigers and gone on to do great things.
Yeah.
He hasn't yet.
No, but he will.
Steve just says that to give Luke Brooks a backhanded compliment.
Good on him. Love Brooksy.
All right, guys, predictions for this game against the Cowboys. Cowboys, they're missing a couple of players. Taumalolo is not going to be there. Ruben Cotter's not going to be there. A couple of former Tigers, Sam McIntyre and McKaylee, are going to be playing for them. It's at Leichhardt, cold weather.
Not just playing, they're starting, mate.
Yeah, they are starting, yeah. Any predictions?
The Cowboys, despite the form's been a little up and down this year, but they're sitting in 6th place on the ladder. So they're obviously getting enough wins to be doing much better than us. But I still don't see them as a good travelling team. I don't see them as being a team that comes to Leichhardt and wins a lot of games. But I think they've probably got a little bit too much for us tomorrow. That back line is still fairly potent. The second rowers, Nanai is a great footballer, and I think he's improving all the time. So despite being missing a couple of players, I think they'll probably just get away with a win, 24-16.
I would like to agree with you, Gary, but you know what? I'm going to flip it today. I've got some really good feels at the moment. Maybe it's all bubbling off the back of Richo's appearance on BTR yesterday, but I have a feeling that the Tigers are going to come out firing tomorrow. I really want to see Latu and Lockie just run right around the middle with Jareem running off them. I want to see Isaiah.
Do you think they start this week, or Benji goes back and changes that around and has Appy in the halves again?
No, he has to start them. He's got to start the kids. I really want to see them start. I want to see Latu play a full game of NRL. I don't think we've seen him play a full game yet, but
He's been on minute restrictions with that hamstring for the majority of the season. So hopefully he's off that and we can just put him on and leave him out there.
yep, love to see that. Love to see Justin Olam get through 80 minutes unscathed as well, and love to see him play again next week. That's something we haven't seen too much of either. And he's a player I really want to see get back to full fitness. I know there's a lot of question marks over his fitness and injury concerns, but we've signed him to a lengthy deal, and he is very important to what we can do next season with an improved spark in attack. So,
would you have thought about not playing him for the rest of the season to get him right for next year?
I would, and I hope they're only playing him because he's fit and ready to go. But we've seen it throughout the years. He's been named in the team, he's played, and then he's been hurt and he's been out again. So I hope it's not more of the same. I am a bit worried. I'd like to ice him. I'd like to ice Appy as well, give them both the spell. But again, I got my full commitment to Benji, and he knows what he's doing. So let's go tomorrow night. Can't wait. Let's go Tigers.
My prediction: West Tigers will. The Cowboys will skip out to some sort of like 32-12 lead, but the West Tigers will put in a spirited second half and win 34-32. Big prediction.
It's some comeback.
It's a big Joel, comeback. Wow. I didn't say that. I thought you were going to say would make a comeback, get it to about 24, and then do something stupid, and they'll score 3 more tries.
No, we've been scoring points, so that gives you hope.
Doing much better towards the second half of the season than we were in the first. Our attack's been much better, and I really think we've got to. I think Talon coming off the bench and going out against tired forwards. He's very dynamic, and the last couple of weeks he's had times where he's gone through and made a break and created that try for Galvin against Souths. I really think if we can get him out on the field towards the end of that first half, give Appy a break, I think he can be really dangerous in that period of football. And I think it would be a big mistake not to use him in that way at the moment.
Alrighty, we'll see how we go. And then reconvene for hopefully a post-victory edition, episode number 350 this weekend.
So are you hosting, or is this a permanent swap? Or
probably be a good idea if I actually watch the game. So if I watch the game, which I'm going to, then I'll be available. So yeah, we're pushing the friendship a bit with Eddie, so maybe Eddie will.
He keeps on saying he's not coming back to next year, but he keeps on. He can't help himself. He keeps on popping his head back up.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, boys.
Thanks, fellas.